Good afternoon to the late one with yours truly, SYLBOURNE SYDIAL, on in review, where we're going to look at the top news and the top news. But there's only two news, simply two news. If you got more news, you can tell us what it is, but there's only two news: Trump and Biden and lockdown, right? And I've got two guesses, two of the team members, Dr. David, Burton, and Keisha. How many more news do you guys have? Good evening. Sorry, good evening. My manners.
Good evening. Good evening. Uh, in terms of news, it's a big one. It's the 5th of November. Firework displays have been beautiful firework displays, marking the lockdown, I guess.
That's bigger news, isn't it?
Yeah. And maybe the news of the fireworks is celebrating a certain successor in the U.S. elections. It's like 4th of July.
Yes. While and Keisha, what's the big news for you today?
The big news is what's actually happening in the news right now, which is the presidential election.
That's no news. The divided states of America.
Well, the divided states of America. That's what it looks like.
Well,
yes.
We're gonna look at that. We wait for Keima to come back in. She's getting on her makeup and she's doing all these crazy things there. I'm watching her. She's put. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready to come in and you got to do it. Right, right. Keima, just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Right, you heard me? Yeah. No. Oh, are you giving me the thumbs up so you're ready? Shake your head now that you're ready.
Live TV, everybody. Live TV.
You give me a thumbs up so you're ready. Okay. So she gave me the thumbs up so she's ready. Okay. I was trying to work out which one it is. 1, 2, 3. You're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, you're ready. Ready. Okay, guys. Well, listen, I've been on a marathon.
Wow, I look like my sister today. Woo.
What's that?
I look like my sister today.
We're somewhat a bit disorganized tonight. What can I say? We're going against the flow, apparently. I mean, I just came off a long interview with Mr. Mark Golden, who is running to become the next prime minister if he can beat Andrew Holness. So that was a good one. You can watch it on replay. But guys, listen, two big news today, and I don't know. I think we best go on lockdown because we're not going to stay long tonight. Lockdown first, and then we go on to the U.S. elections. We're now lockdown. Last night, 12 o'clock, and now we're in. And I hear there's some demonstration in Oxford Street. I don't know why, because of lockdown. Tell me. I don't know. We talk about this every. What's going on? I mean, we know what's going on. I mean, the thing about this lockdown is that they were supposed to stop the furlough, and the furlough is now going on till March. So my indication to me saying is they're planning a long lockdown in winter. David?
That's the feeling. That's the word on the street. Obviously, we can't but speculate at this moment in time. It's not been ratified, but at the same time, why would you continue the furlough scheme for such a prolonged period? Schemes such as the mortgage holiday have not been extended just as yet, but again, that's going to be a question. If furlough has been extended, then is there going to be extension of other sort of assistance schemes that are obviously out there? There's been a focus on people who are self-employed also. So making sure that they have been securely looked after during this period of time. So we can only speculate, and with that information, extension until March. The past week to 2 weeks have been very interesting, and watching the play out of what happened in Liverpool and Manchester, the negotiations for the north of England for help and assistance. Didn't really centre on very much help and assistance in the views and eyes of the powers that be in Manchester, and so to now go to a full kind of furlough scheme for the nation, it's really strange kind of transition, and obviously things have escalated in regards to the number of patients who have been admitted to hospital over the course of the last few weeks. So you're going to have people on both sides, people who want to have a full national lockdown, and those people who are kind of questioning why it is that when they were in tier 1 that they've now gone to a full national lockdown. And I think that's a just question to ask, really. but we are where we are. We're being asked to stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives again, and we just have to see what the fallout of that will be.
Yeah. Um, well, I can see the ladies are. We need to get some silver and ruby cups or something like that because these guys are promoting a lot of cups out there or something like that. uh, Keima, Keisha, what's your take before we talk about virtual coffee later? I don't know where's the background noise. Is somebody a background? Put your hands up. Uh, okay, that is coming from. Okay, Keima, you go first while Keisha sort out the background. Um, what's your take on the whole thing regarding the lockdown? Now that we're in the lockdown.
Oh, we can't hear.
Oh,
She's
sorry.
muted.
Yeah, go ahead now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah. So I said today, the Chancellor has announced that they will be extending the furlough scheme until March. And one of the things that people have been very concerned about is the timing that he's making these announcements. Now, the problem we have, particularly people who's in the workforce and people whose jobs who weren't really secured, a lot of people have been told already that they would have been made or were going to be made redundant. So we
Mm,
see some shops, John Lewis, Sainsbury's already, and some other businesses are declaring that they're making a lot of people redundant. And we expected
wow.
this, but the timing seemed very, it doesn't very board very well for a lot of people because although the furlough scheme now is extended until March, a lot of people will find themselves by the end of this month unemployed and would
Wow.
not benefit at all from that furlough scheme. So we could see a very dire situation for a lot of people. But not only that, the lockdown itself is taking a toll on some people,
Mm,
although it's quite divided, but there's rise, of course, in terms of domestic violence and suicides, and
mm,
people not getting the treatment. So Theresa May was asking, the Chancellor was asking Boris Johnson, have they weighed up the cost,
yeah.
not just the financial cost, but the human cost this will be on people's lives. So, I mean, the more we get into this situation, it's harder it will become. I mean, it might be a bit of a relief for some businesses, that there is the furlough scheme, but how many people now who are already out of jobs who won't be able to benefit from those? And also, you have, not all businesses will benefit, if you know what I mean. Some people who are freelancers, they've got
Yes.
other people who do different sort of jobs. I mean, but not only that, you've got hairdressers who have just opened up, and it takes it's a very difficult view to take, where you have a lot of business have actually tried to make the business COVID safe. They've bought the machines that it takes to test your temperature. They've actually invested in sanitizers and face masks and all of that. And to be told, by the way, you're going to have to close for a month, it makes it really hard because you're spending money on things that you don't really, really need. And so ultimately, I mean, my thoughts on this is really, whether the government has thought of the whole thing properly is my thing.
Yeah. And you know, Keisha, what's your take on it? Because Keima made a fundamental point there. What's your take on it, Keima?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
So I take him a point that there's some concern regarding the lockdown, but as I said for the past few weeks, I think this has been well overdue, and I think I'm part of a group of people within this country who have been making the point or the case for the need for lockdown weeks ago. But again, for whatever reason, there has since been a delay, and now the government has come to terms with the realization that the best way forward for this country is to have the lockdown. Now,
yeah.
Kima speaks a lot about the negativity or the negatives are associated with the lockdown. But Kima, as I said to you before, there are a lot of positives as well. There's an increased sense of community now that people have time, or to spend with their family and spend a lot and understanding the community that they live in. So there's a lot of positivity around the lockdown as well. And as the lockdown, as the government is saying, is a temporary measure, and we cannot forget the purpose or the reason for this lockdown. It's fundamental because we're in unprecedented times, which means that we have to take every step, every reasonable step to ensure we contain the virus. And doing this is the most is a clearly the government has actually come to the realization that this is the actually ultimate way in which we can actually reduce the virus. And that is why it's important that we as a community and as a nation that we cooperate with this measure. We have to actually work, because the only how it's going to be effective is people comply with the rules.
Okay.
I mean, I understand that today is I'm sorry.
I'm saying is there's a question about whether this lockdown actually work or not. We've been in a lockdown before. We've come out of the lockdown. We've actually come out too early. We've had the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, because the government, the chancellor was trying to revive the economy, would actually set us back to where we were. So the problem that a lot of people are having is we're back in lockdown again. What happens at the end of the month?
Sorry to cut you, Keima, but there's been an argument that the reason why there has been a spike is also because of the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, or because people went out. The lockdown, as you said, was closed was opened up too early, and therefore people started to integrate and fail to comply with the relevant measures, which is social distancing and so on. This is why we actually have a second lockdown. This is why we're actually at the stage where we are, because people aren't complying with the measures. So I think now that we're where we are, we're in this lockdown, people need to actually comply with the rules. If the government said that we need to stay indoors, simply stay indoors. I don't really understand what's the complication about it.
All right.
But we keep hearing on about
that's not the issue. That's not the issue, Keisha. We're in a lockdown, which is fine. The problem is coming out of the lockdown is the thing. Do we have a long-term plan to make sure we don't go back into the lockdown? And that is the problem that a lot of people are seeing. We are not seeing the long-term plan. That is the issue.
All right, let's stop a point there. Welcome to Michelle on the show. Would love to hear your views as well. I've got mixed thoughts about this lockdown thing, and I lean towards Keima at the same time. And I hear what you say, Keisha, in regard to people spending time with their families. People are always spending time with their families. People are spending time with their families but at the same time, you don't spend your life with your families. You got to social interact with people out there in the world. David, listen, let's be practical about this thing now. Where, as a medical practitioner, you're not just seeing COVID, you're seeing other impact. The domestic violence, the mental health aspect, all these different factors are going. People who don't want to go to hospital because they fear of getting COVID, so they are dying of cancer, they're dying of lip thing or whatever like that. I mean, is it creating a bigger giant?
I think it is, SYLBOURNE, and that's again one of the things that I've focused on this show. And beyond, I communicate with my patients obviously every day. I make sure that they're in a mentally in a well place. You can appreciate that when they come into the clinic. You sort of assess that. That's what we're skilled at doing, and so we open that discussion forum up when seeing our patients, not just about the matter at hand, but just seeing how they're coping with COVID. Some patients are coping very well. Some people are saying, I'm quite happy with the lockdown. Other people are not. And I think I've probably shared a story, if I haven't already. There are patients who come with their stories, and I had one patient in clinic who was unable to see his wife, who's in a nursing home, for the past several months. And both of them in their latter days. We're not promised a day tomorrow, but they're on their latter days, and he hasn't seen his wife, who's in a nursing home, for several months. And this isn't just one standalone story. This is many a story. And you've got to really think, well, what kind of enjoyments are you going to have in life, in the latter part of your life, if you can't see your loved ones, if you can't be with your loved ones because of COVID? And I get it. The rhetoric, not just the rhetoric, but that we've got to be safe. We've got to have secure places where people can see people. And I don't know why it is that we can't have that now. This is several months down the line. This is nearly a year that we've had COVID circulate around the globe. And why it is we can't have safe, secure places that people can go visit loved ones in hospitals, in nursing homes, and the like. I don't understand. And that's what I'm trying to really say. We need to be able to put in place, and we have to live with this condition, because the virus isn't going away tomorrow. And as Keima quite rightly said earlier, we've really got to get to grips with what the plan is. What is our plan? What is our exit strategy? How are we going to get out of this? And when I say get out of this, I mean, how are we going to live with this? Because again, this isn't going to be going away, and we need to make sure that people can still interact. Social contact is key to the way that we navigate our lives. Okay, we don't live in isolation. That's not the way that humans exist. It's not the way that animals exist. It's not the way that anybody exists. Okay, we interact with one another. Whether we like those interactions or we don't like those interactions is one thing, but we interact with one another. And whilst we're having an interaction right now over a virtual medium, there's nothing better than actually being in the physical space of another person. There's something more to it than just that. And I think if we cannot have that experience, and we break it down to saying, okay, we're just going to live within these four walls and we're not going to socially interact through safe medium, then I don't get it.
David, this is a measure. It's a temporary measure, okay? And what we appear to be missing here is this is not just about saving ourselves. This is about saving the NHS as well, and that is why we have to implement the lockdown now. You know the numbers. I believe today over 400 and something amount of people died today because of COVID.
It's 500, but and that's a big number. And I'm not,
it is a big number.
Keisha, but I'm not detracting from the fact that we're having a lockdown. What I'm saying is we need to find safe quarters. I don't think this is inarguable. We need to find safe quarters about how we interact with one another. And I don't know how we've not realized that yet. That's what I'm trying to say. We must, a year down the line from a virus that's taken so many lives, that's caused so many people to go into hospital, that's caused so many people to be unwell. And also we've got to say a proportion of people who are unaccounted for because we don't know whether they've had the virus or not. I don't understand, and I'm trying to understand and realize why it is that we cannot put together a safe program of effectively communicating with other people in a space with respect to the virus. And that's the question I'm trying to raise here. Why is it that we're concentrating on other such factors like, locking down or furloughs or whatever it is? I get that all those things need to coexist, but why can't we communicate the idea that we need to communicate?
Look at what Tony Jazz said. They don't have a plan. So it's time we as a people have to stop looking to governments to care for us because they don't care. Do for ourselves within the communities a must. We need to come together and pool our resources and talent to survive this example gifting family.
Do you know what I think? So sorry to cut you. I know you're going to comment there, but it's interesting about the word plan again. Okay, there's been an issue in Manchester today whereby walls and fences were erected around a university campus without the knowledge of the students. The students woke up to walls being erected around them and saying, okay, we need to have security checks, we need to do this, that, and the other. Imagine how that makes you feel. Now, this evening, literally just 18 minutes ago, and I'm sorry if you saw me looking down, I was looking at the tweet, we've just now found out that those walls have been torn down by the students, and the university has now apologized. Without plan and direction, we get these kind of things occurring. And we get fear, we get anxiety, we get things that shouldn't be occurring. And I think that's the problem. We've not really planned for any of this. We've not really thought about the ramifications of what's going on. And we've had so much time. I don't get it. That's what I don't understand. We should really be looking at this and how we actively communicate with one another in a safe environment rather than saying we need to lock down or we need to do this, that, and the other. I'm not saying that a lockdown is not called for at this period of time. But what I am saying is we've got to figure out how we live with this condition.
But also the fallout from this as well, where we had we got the likes of Priti Patel and using the police force to put a firm hand on people who aren't following the lockdown rule. There was one story in the papers today, particularly with an elderly mum. She's been in a care home for 9 months, and the mother tried to. Who's actually a nurse who tried to take her from the care home was actually arrested. And you also hear another story of Oxford University saying, if students don't stay indoors, that they will be they won't graduate. So you have more and more of these things coming out, and how people are able to live with it. How do people live in an environment? Not everybody will be able to survive and staying indoors. That sort of thing is it's going to make it absolutely more difficult. And how do we manage it? Do we get it with more police involved? Do we criminalize people? You know, it's very tricky, and we still haven't been able to navigate our way
Yeah.
through it because there's not even a clear plan of what we're doing
Can I,
going forward.
can I just ask a question to Keima, Keisha? Can I ask you this question? If you're in a position whereby you never had the privilege of working from home, would you support the lockdown like that, or would you want to find a way how to navigate it? Because a lot of people at the same time are comfortable with the lockdown because they're in a comfortable place and they can manage and they can navigate with it. And you have other people now who are saying, man, like that guy in Jamaica who was saying, listen, if COVID don't kill me, hunger gonna kill me. I mean, I beg nobody nothing. So you see, that's a balancing act now. And I believe in a way that I'm thinking that the government is not that creative in really dealing with this because, as I kept saying, you haven't seen the other side yet. And I understand saving the NHS. It's so funny saving the NHS. Really? Anyhow,
Yes, because we're overwhelming. It's likely that we'll be overwhelming the NHS if there's an influx or increased number
mm,
of deaths or inpatients due to COVID. So we are at the moment by staying indoors, we are saving the NHS because you don't want to overwhelm the NHS at this time. Now, I take your point. It's a fair assessment that somebody like myself, who is actually in a position to work from home, stay at
yeah,
home, have the flexibility I need, I could look at it from my angle because it works for me. It worked well for me.
yes,
Now, I think I would be reasonable as well to say that given the circumstances, given that we're in unprecedented times, if I was in a position where, like my sister who has to go to work, most of those within the week, most days, I think it's more. It is, and David as well. It is reasonable for you to want if it's if it increases the safety of each other, staying at home and being locked in for some time is the best option. And obviously, the reason why we're here is because the government see fit that it is the best option.
mm,
Keima, we seem to forget that you remember the government actually open up the lockdown and say everyone can go to work, but you have to implement certain measures: wear your mask, wash your hands, gloves, um, social distances. Kim, you speak about how much all the measures that all this small business has implemented, and they think that they spend so much unreasonable money, and we're still here. The government have actually considered other option. The fact is, it didn't work. That's why we're here now. And I take your point, Sylvan, that the government also needs to be more creative and imaginative, and even as as Tony says, we need to have a long-term plan, because you're absolutely right. There isn't a long-term plan.
yeah.
But for the time being, this is where we are. We need to contain the virus. And this is why we have to stay indoors. Now,
So,
I'm more than happy for David and Keima to come up with a creative plan. But at the moment, the government says stay indoors, and this is what I
I
support.
think I think Keisha, the one thing I would say is I think you've just said regarding the government, and it's easy to critique the government, but the plans that they put in place didn't work. We all agree in that. But why did they not work? Where was the support for them to work? And let's just critique one thing: track and trace. Why did that not work? It was just a name at the end of the day in regards to how things were put forward. It didn't work because the groundwork for trying to get it to work was always kind of in a position for it not to really take off the ground. And when you ask government advisors about the track and trace program, they're always saying it's not fit for purpose. So that's the reason and rationale why we are where we are, not because we want to go into another lockdown, but because the plans that were put in place have not really worked. And we have to critique that and say, well, why is that? And when we come out of this next lockdown, is it going to be right, or is it going to be still wrong? Are we going to go for another lockdown, the third lockdown, the fourth lockdown, the fifth lockdown? Again, it boils down to that plan. So
and
things
David,
have been put in place, but they just haven't worked.
and David, that's the classic point I've been raising a lot of time to say that we're not going through this whole thing. So therefore, as we leave this lockdown and it doesn't work, we're going to another lockdown, and we're not crossing over. We're not crossing it. That's the whole thing, and we'll never know.
I
And
think we seem to forget that the scientists did predicted a second lockdown. I don't think they went to a third or fourth lockdown. I know I take your point,
yeah,
Dr. Burton, that there's likely to be. But I mean, as far as we're concerned, few months back, we were very much aware that we're looking at two lockdown, and most countries, if I can remember correctly, had two lockdowns. So I don't know if there's a third and fourth lockdown from any other country, but I might be correct.
You're right. We don't know, but as
Yeah.
I said, to mitigate that, we cannot do anything but critique. The fact is that the critique the things that have gone before us and work out whether they worked or not. The track and trace has not worked. It's been a poor failure in regards to the way, and that, you know, that should be something that we look at and say, well, why has it not worked? But I don't hear any answers to those questions. I don't even hear the question really being raised, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Regardless if we're going to have a second peak, yes, you're right, there are other countries that have had second peaks, but that doesn't mean the peak that we have peak isn't so big. That means the lockdown, that if we're going to say the inevitable lockdown, the second lockdown is going to occur, wouldn't have to be so long, potentially, because you'd be flattening that peak out. You wouldn't have the same number of cases.
It's a very good conversation, and we can keep going on with this thing for a while. I just ask persons as well, what is your views in regards to this whole lockdown? But I do sense that people are somewhat getting a bit frustrated. It's like, the lockdown is gonna last starting last night. People are out in droves. What's that? We're gonna you
I
gotta
guess.
Yeah, at least you should be on lockdown in bed at this time.
1 second.
I make sure mine is on lockdown. The whole thing about it is that lots of people were out last. Everybody just trying to find ways, I believe, of define it. No wonder my neighbor just playing firecrackers so much. It's like everybody just want to defy this whole thing. Do you get that?
So. I think so. I think
I think people are just bored. So I was just saying, people are just bored of the idea of this lockdown and not quite clear what the government. I mean, if you ask people where we are, what is the communication? What is the government position and anything? People don't even know. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. We've got Tier 5. All sort of different. So people aren't very clear at all. So I think people stop actually listening and are doing their own thing. We've got people out protesting today because they don't want to be locked down again.
Wow.
So all of this sort of confusion that's going on, that's not helping the government position in the long run. If people aren't listening, they've lost every credibility it is, and you cannot have a effective plan. You cannot have a effective get out or come out of this lockdown period or COVID or dealing with it, unless you have a really clear communication strategy. Because people not listening to you, they're not going to follow they're not going to follow what you want them to do. Simple as that.
Yes, it's interesting, guys, and a lot of, put it this way, it's like we don't know. Nobody knows, and then this virus is this silent terrorist geezer out there. We're just having a field day apparently, and maybe laughing at us. I don't know.
Well, if
But
you have to go out, I'm sure
I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking that COVID is not a serious threat. At the same time. Sorry, Keisha.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure David will remind us that if we have to go out for a reason, you have to wear your mask.
Have to wear your masks. You have to be safe. But if you have to go out, and that's, there are only certain things that will allow you to go out. If you need to go to the supermarket, if you're allowed to exercise, meeting with friends, you can't meet in larger groups anymore. That's off the limits. Obviously, shops are now only closed for food shopping. You can't go clothes shopping, all of those things either. And yeah, wear a mask, be safe out there. And we have the lockdown until the 2nd of December, but we have to watch this space. We know that the furlough scheme is extended till March.
Yeah.
So there's a potential for things to sort of be delivered for thereafter, and try and be safe. Have a happy Christmas when it comes. As happy as you can, and make sure you look after people in your community. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that people are safe and people are well in your community. Don't lose sight of that fact, because there are people who are going to be lonely this Christmas, as they are lonely every Christmas, and this Christmas matters more in that regard because of the constraints on our society. So please make sure people in your communities are safe and sound.
And that worries me. Keisha, I'm going to let you come in a little bit, but I'm just saying, following what David's saying there, that really worries me, because there's a lot of elderly people who live on their own over Christmas. And, it's bad enough the rest of the year they don't see their family members. But Christmas is a time where at least family will come around. And so it's going to be a very, very difficult time. Loneliness is certainly not healthy for the elderly. So I don't know how, I'm just hoping this lockdown will really come out. I think it's supposed to come out the 2nd or 3rd or something of December. I'm really hoping it doesn't go beyond that, because I could see particular elderly will suffer so much as a result.
Yes, it is very interesting, and guys, the chancellor is trying his best, the government is trying its best, everybody's trying their best at this time, and I will not take it lightly. And Keisha, I saw what you did a while ago. You pulled David to line up with his profession.
Yes, we have a professional. We might as well make use of him.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what you got to do is follow the signs, wear your mask, and stay safe, and keep the NHS safe, and keep yourself safe as well. I would like to hear your views as well in regards to the lockdown. Do you think it's working? Are you on lockdown? What's your thoughts about it? Are you on furlough? What do you think about furlough? I mean, interesting thing, the furlough is into March. For me, that's a signal saying we're going in for a long winter.
All right, just one more thing, David. Even though the gyms are closed, we can actually still go to the park.
Yeah, you can still exercise. So that's what I said. You can go outside for
mental-
exercise. So, I'm thinking things holistically here. Quite obviously, yes, you've got to follow the government advice, but quite obviously, you've also got to look after society. And I don't think that is something that's been emphasized as stringently as it should have. So that's why I'm giving you the advice to go and make sure your communities are well and safe, but stick within the government guidelines of not going outdoors unless there's a particular reason for you to be outdoors. Save lives, protect the NHS, keep well, and look after one another.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you not able to meet with your bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so the rule here is that if you are an individual and you can share a bubble with another household. That's the rule. At present, as of the 5th of November 2020 at 21:35 p.m.
Somebody on Instagram said
that's fine then.
Somebody on Instagram said, "Lock down my back foot."
It's the back foot. I'm not laughing about the non-lockdown. I'm just laughing about back foot. I've not heard for a while.
It reminds the person
this back foot thing. I think it's a Jamaican thing, isn't it?
It is.
Please.
Yeah, because we're Jamaican. We run church. We say, "Is it front foot?" I don't know what we.
Please. My father, don't swear, and that's what he would say.
Oh, so it's a swear word.
SYLBOURNE,
why are you swearing on?
Hang on a second. My father said, "Get over your back foot and get over your rusty fella." So when I saw this gentleman, the person here on Instagram said, "Lock down my back foot," it reminded me of my dad. Say your back foot.
So it's a swear word then.
Well, back is back and foot is foot. You got back for your foot. Come on. Isn't that so, David?
Yeah. It's just the back foot. You just insert the slides. Just slide it in there. It's a PG-13. Okay. PG-13 back foot.
Right. Because I don't want to be going around saying it and get myself in trouble.
Yeah. This is what Story says. To be honest, I don't see the government doing anything different from March lockdown. What is the government doing during this lockdown? And that's the same thing. That is what everybody is actually saying now. People are just like, this lockdown, what does it mean? I mean, like our good friend James created so many things in his business place. I think Manchester maybe is a bit okay. I don't know what's the situation in Manchester. But everybody has been creating all these different ways to make sure that they're compliant. And then bam, lockdown again. And therefore people are just going bust. So therefore, after you come out of this, what they're gonna do? They're busted. There's a job the other day for some £9 an hour job. They said thousands of people or so applied for the job.
One thing I did hear, and one thing I kind of see the sentiment is, it's hard to think of the wider society when you've got, your family right in front of you, and bread and butter is making money to try and feed family, to make sure family are fine and housed and all the rest of it. So I think that's the key here. It's very easy to lose sight of the wider society when you've got to think of your immediate group. So that's the key. And if you can't solve both problems, then you're going to have issues.
Yeah. Sonia Lee.
Sonia is one of us, by the way. by
One
people.
of us. Yeah, he's one of us. We're all in this
We're
one
all,
together.
yeah, we're all in it together.
Yeah, we're
My
all in.
island people. Island people.
Yeah, we're all
Small
from the
island
island.
people.
We're all small island. Oh, small island. Okay, yeah, small island. I won't be.
No, that Jamaica is small island too. May I
Keima,
add?
I thought you said
Well,
Smart Island. That's why I was going along the lines. Smart
yeah,
Island people.
That's
I
what I
like
yeah.
said.
that.
That's what she meant to say. Smart island people.
There you go. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, smart island people.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
smart island. Well, listen, guys. I mean, the interesting thing also is that there has been this very interesting topic which is happening, and as you can see, um, who won this election, guys? No one know what won this election. What's going on there in the United States of America?
I
What's
th- I
going on?
think I think Silborn, you should be asking the question: who's giving the tea or coffee?
We,
That's what
can,
I want to know.
we
I
cannot
want
talk.
my coffee.
We cannot talk about tea and coffee as yet.
And by the
until
way,
we know.
guys, I like my coffee black. Thank you.
Yeah, who won? Who won the election?
Well, I mean, I feel like Trump at the moment, we need to dispute certain things because we need to be some challenging there,
Oh,
challenges
we need to do
undertaken.
certain things. We need to.
Because we didn't agree on the terms when we actually say who should have coffee or no. So we need to go back and review what we agreed.
Keisha sounds
Okay.
like she's trying to, instill. I feel the Supreme Court's going to come in here a little while, Keisha. Is that what you're
It
trying
is
to hear
getting
for?
there. But we got to go to the lower court before we get to the Supreme Court. But we've got to dispute some of these things first. We need to clarify what we agreed to. I didn't remember the terms.
I'm trying to find this video, and I love to find it. But there's a prophet. There's a prophet guy who said who had prophesied that Trump was going to win, and then they said this is our prophet tried to justify that he's wrong, and he said I prophesied that he was going to win, and then I had a dream, and
Oh
there
my
was some,
God. Yes.
and then
I saw
and there
that
was some
today. I saw that
disturbance.
today.
Hold on, he said there was some
Oh, that's so
disturbance.
painful to watch. But you know what, Silvan? I mean, as a Christian, that's a spiritual matter. I don't even sure if I should touch on that right now. But you
But
know, because
we need to know
no,
the
the
ending.
reason
What
why
happened?
no, because he started peddling back and say, "Oh, there's something in the for those who are Christian, something in the spiritual realm shifting, and now I can see that it's going to be Biden's going to win." So he started to pedal back on his prophecy. But anyway, but still, but he's not the only prophet out there that prophesied that Trump should have actually had a second term. So there's so many prophecies, like 4 or 5 of them. See, like major prophets that said that. So the question is, some people are saying, well, are they false prophets? But anyway, that's another conversation from when I'm speaking on spiritual matters. But
Well, I'm not peddling back. I'd like my coffee, please.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
For 1, 2, 3, 3 coffees, please.
Well,
Black.
listen. We're not just for black coffee or white coffee. We're for all coffee. We're not for Democrats or Republicans. I'm for all Americans. As Biden said. But on a serious note, do you see anything funny or fishy going on? I mean, the figure is stuck on this figure for the past 2 days. It's like something has happened. Can't get this 270. What's going on?
The way the political system in America works is, I'd say, interesting for want of a better word. But this is the way that this whole thing falls out, and they've had record numbers of votes. I think I saw a stat that the highest number of turnout for 100 and odd years. So you're gonna find that with the idea of having postal votes and the day that these votes are counted, etc., per state differences, all of this jazz is always going to lead to this particular contention. But I don't think Trump has any grounds for any of his kind of counter judgments. I don't think there's anything fishy going on from a counting point of view. These votes need to be counted, and that's the way that the rules were all set up. So the rules are already there on the get-go. What I do think is very interesting is that Trump identified that this is going to be a potential issue many weeks ago.
Yes.
And so obviously he caught wind of what was going on, and I think the Republicans would have tried to skew the way that things were going to pan out going down the line. But you can't. You find it very difficult to change legislature. It's very difficult to change laws, and I think he said that those stumbling blocks obviously didn't pan out before the election, and we're just seeing the fallout of that now. And Biden, for me, I'm happy to eat my hat like Paddy Ashdown, but Biden for me is definitely going to be the president. I'm definitely going to get my 3 coffees, and I don't see anything that was going awry. I just can't see anything falling out now that would allow the Trump presidency to continue for another 4 years.
Well, what they
But
said,
I'm happy to hear.
yeah.
I'm happy to hear the challenge.
But what
Yes,
they say here is that the final results of the U.S. presidential hinges on the state of Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. But what I found very interesting with the different media houses, the CNN is actually so excited and so happy that Don Lemon is saying, "Oh, I know, we're trying to get to the figures, but I'm just enjoying the moment leading up to that."
enjoy the moment. And it is the Democrat. That is the Democrat rhetoric. The Biden came out and he said, "Let's stay calm. All the votes need to be counted." Because as far as they're concerned, they've already see their pathway to victory, and therefore, it's all settled. But to be fair on Trump, with all due respect to him, and we all have issues with Trump, he has a right to question the vote. The problem with questioning these votes is that you're bringing in the whole democratic process of the great United States into disrepute. So then you begin to position America like a developing or third world country states if you start challenging their democratic process. So nobody want to touch that. Only Trump at the moment who's actually have the audacity to say, it's voter fraud. Now, the reason why I'm actually raising that point is because I want to go to Keima to say, Keima, what is your experience, if I could recall correctly, many years ago when you actually observed the ballot in the UK? What's the process like? So for people who don't really understand how it really works.
All right. So I did stand for councillor several times actually, but the way it works is that you observe, you go into the venue where they're going to be counting, and you stand there and you actually watch. You literally watch when the votes are the boxes are opened. You watch that. You see the votes are picked out and counted, and you literally see that. You checked and you see, okay, this vote is coming from a particular ward. It might be Abbey ward. It might be coming from Less Abbey. It might be coming from different. So for example, where they're coming from. And if you've been campaigning, you probably have an indication where you would be positioning. So, for example, if a Conservative area, the particular ward comes in that is in that area, you might think to yourself, well, I'm Conservative. I'm most of those votes coming in would be for me. Yeah. But if it's from a different area, you might think, okay, that may not be for me. But if I could dent it a little bit and get some more votes from that area, then I'm making progression. So I think the whole dispute at the moment is that, Trump is saying, and Trump or some of the Republicans are saying, they haven't been there. They weren't able to witness where all of these ballots coming from. And that is the fundamental problem we have here. So if the process isn't followed properly, there's always going to be questions about voter fraud. And a lot of people who've been through the process know, a lot of times when there's fraud involved, it has to do with postal votes. A lot of times, because of course, for example, America has different rules. You got to post, your votes at a particular time, and it's and if it doesn't get there, if the person could show up again, and there's different grey areas around that, and it's always been an issue when it comes to postal votes. So yes, Trump has a right to question it. When, for example, he was like, a day ago, he was looking, I think he was on a trajectory to win, clearly. Yeah. But now he was thinking, well, where all of these boxes are coming from all of a sudden. Because they were there in the beginning. So, yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing, the interesting thing is that Keima, I echo you. I've stood in a couple elections as yourself, and they always ask for who is going to go to the count to see what is happening. And we can stop and we can watch and we can see what is happening. If something falls on the ground or whatever like that, we'd say, hey, what's that? Or if you see something funny, we can say, hey, can you check that again? And the person who are counting tend to sort of look and say, oh, sorry.
Annoyed, is it? Sometimes they get annoyed, isn't it? Look.
yeah. And then the persons who are of the same party look at each other and say, hey, they're into something good here. And so I can see that. So Pennsylvania, for argument's sake, they never had the opportunity of doing that. So I would, whether supporting Trump or not, I would say don't concede until these things are sorted, Mike. You know what I mean? Because something dodgy is there. Because it's all of a sudden, like Portia Simpson one time in Jamaica, she said, "We found money." So all of a sudden, they said, "They found votes late in the
But
night."
that's another thing, too. But I want to say erase, because the reason why I asked Keima what this help me understand the process, because I would have thought if there's 100 ballot boxes, if 50 is from contains in votes in person, and the other 50 contains postal votes. When you start the process, say you close your office at 6 and you start counting. Sorry, you close the office at 5 and you start counting at 6. You take all 100. So you tell everybody this is 100 made up of both mail-in ballots and people in person. So we all know from the outset this is what we're looking at. The problem we have with this election is we started counting halfway through the night. We all say, "Oh, comfortably that this is a Trump win." Then we all wake up in the morning and suddenly there's no ballot. The boxes suddenly appear. How could that be? It should have been agreed from the beginning when they started the counting.
Maybe these boxes are from 4 years ago in Hillary.
The bottom line is, I think that Trump has a right to challenge this. But obviously, the mainstream media are going to say, he should be doing that because actually it's a bad and poor reflection to a great country like America. You should be at this mature stage of the United States. You should be questioning this.
What I will say is there's going to be a process, isn't there? And this is going to go down to the courts. He's already tried to challenge and stop them twice, and I think there was a pause in Pennsylvania. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but then there's they open back up again. So there's a process. He knows that he needs to follow that process. He also knows that he needs to keep trying to push that agenda. What was very interesting with the very first speeches that he made, I think at 2:00 in the morning, when we were waking up on this side on these shows, was that he brought his family out and he was saying how he was going to challenge this and take this forward. And then he brought Pence on, and Pence really didn't kind of push that as an agenda. He just kind of was more accepting of the process. And so, it really is going to be interesting to see how much the Republicans support that process and support Trump. And going forward, how the Republican Party breaks away from Trump. Because I generally don't see him challenging and winning, and I generally see Biden as the next president of the United States.
Yes, but we agree with that. I agree as well. I don't see him winning, but I just don't think, they say that I think that unfortunately Biden has won, but I don't think he actually genuinely win. Because of if you don't really review these things, if you don't actually I think they should actually have a second count. All of these, the narrow margin states, Nevada,
Arizona,
all of those narrow. They should recount.
They have not been declared.
Count all of them over.
They've not been declared, and the other thing,
they have not been declared yet.
Just for routine sake, as I go through this, if it falls within a certain split, then they will have to recount. That's written into the rulings anyway. So each state will have that as written part of their policy in regards to how they recount. So they wouldn't recount if it was a 48. If it was a 48-52, they wouldn't recount. But if it's a closer split, then quite obviously, then you would, depending on the number of votes for that particular state as well.
Okay,
but what I'm saying, all the states that's been called into question at the moment, because there's a lot of states that Trump is actually, I think he has a valid point in terms of challenging. Those are the states that really should be reviewed.
Okay, point taken. So he's got a valid point there. Kayleigh McKenna, that is first secretary there, lady.
Kayleigh.
Just got a tweet from her. Largest percentage of non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years. Now, that is something else which everybody's looking at, because the polls were actually saying that it's going to be a landslide, and the polls are now seeming to be again defunct, because a lot of black people, they say, and non-whites have voted for Trump. Look at Florida. I know a couple of persons in Florida was actually saying, "Hey, we got this in the can." One guy said, we got it. And then later down, I saw in his post said, I don't think we really got it. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, something is a shift here. What we are seeing in America is that it is the divided states of America. What we have seen in America is that you might start to be considered, and you might not like it, as a banana republic to a certain extent, whereby you lack the moral authority to now even govern, or to not govern, but to monitor other countries with their elections.
Yeah, agreed completely. Because who's America? Because what would normally happen in the developing states or developing world is that if there's any issues around election, they tend to get, somebody you from the UN or American official to come and oversee, because they think that,
Yes.
they can police better than, people
Yeah,
in the developing countries themselves.
yeah,
So that tends to always happen. Now, given that we are in this position where America doesn't seem to actually have, their own backyard, as we say in Montreal, right, in order, everything in order. They don't have their own home. No, I don't think they're in a good position now to be challenging, questioning, overseeing another country,
yeah.
because
Let
they
me just pick,
themselves
yeah,
haven't had it right.
But I think
yeah. Let me just pick up a couple.
no.
I want to
Go on,
pick up
go
a
on.
couple from persons from Instagram. I totally agree. Biden team have rigged the votes. Another person said postal votes should have done away with. That's something they said. They said vote early so you're in there. And now they're not counting the people who voted early. Mark Cross says Biden will prevail, but the bigger insight is Republicans taking the Senate. And also the fact that the Dems
Yes.
lost the House seat, it will be hard for Biden to govern. I know that they picked up 3 seats from the House. That is the Republicans as well. And my good friend Etana, Etana, that singer, she posted something on, we're talking today. She said, a friend of mine, for argument's sake, not the person, Irma Sangli, said she went to the polls. She said her voter's ID had her right address, which matched her driver's license. When they put her ID in the system, her name came up Irma Sang, with her maiden name as her last name and an address she never lived. She said she had partially named the wrong address on that day. She discovered that she was 2 people. Why it was shocking to her is because she has the same voter's ID, never changed or updated her address in the system, and she never moved from her address. Who is the second her? LOL. My response was saying, my response is that maybe she should be worried because she may even consider that she could be the clone. She may not be the original.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, Sylvan. I mean, today there was this elderly lady, and I really should laugh because I feel really sorry for her. She said, all my life, I voted in person. All my life, I voted in person.
Yes.
And she said on the 3rd of November, she went to vote in person. And when she went there to vote, they told her, sorry, you voted already. You voted by post. And she goes, I don't even know how to vote by post. And so she was so frustrated that the fact that somebody else voted for her. So played it. And she said, I think maybe a few weeks before, 3-4 weeks ago, they posted that they were going to post out some ballots, but she never really took much notice of it because, as far as she's concerned, she was never going to do any postal ballots. So she's now thinking that somebody got those ballots and, basically voted by post on behalf of her. And now she went to vote for as usual, every 4 years or however often America votes. And for the first time, she's not allowed to vote because somebody has voted on her behalf by post. So
My good friend in Virginia said, that is how you split the vote. and many people I understand, and they're saying this, and this is something one of those guys who organized were saying, the postal votes are out there and people post in the vote, and yet at the same time they go in and they also vote.
But that's why you need to have an observer. I think that's why I was trying to figure out how it works if you and Keima is there in person. Do you check? So if I vote in person and then obviously I vote, obviously I would do that by post. How do you know that I vote twice if you're an observer? How would you work this out?
The observer won't know.
The observer won't know. No.
But then somebody had to check though. I don't know.
That's why Trump has a point. So no coffee, David. 3 weeks time, Mike. No coffee.
But I think. But the thing is,
basically, you're the Supreme Court. You just elected. In fact, not the banana republic. You're quite right. You guys just said no.
283. He's getting 283 electoral college. Trump is winning 283 electoral college.
That's what he's saying.
How did I get that figure?
Hold on, now you're just picking figures out. No, this is not right now. Now
I added it.
Just on speculation. No, I get the point with regards to the postal vote system, but this is the system that's employed, and what it comes back to what we were saying about planning. I don't understand how there's not a plan to reduce the likelihood that somebody could vote in somebody else's name. And actually, let's take this back to the UK. I've asked that question with regards to general elections. Whenever I've gone into the polling station, I've been asked a few things and never really had my ID checked. I've just been asked, where do you live, and what's your address? Okay, that's it. That's all I've been asked. So I feel that somebody could go in and impersonate me, taking my vote from my particular address. So there has to be a better way. I don't understand why there isn't a better way of enforcing the fact that one person, one vote, no clone. I don't get it. Why are we not planned for this? It's not like we're living in the 19th century. This is 2020.
David, that's why you're an ophthalmologist. You're
right. I see everything. Okay? I see and I investigate and I treat. But I can't do anything in regards to these voting irregularities that potentially can take place. Because again, taking us back to the UK, I don't know what your guys' experiences are regards to voting in the UK, but the checklist is principally you walk in, you tell them your name and your address. They go down a list. They use the little ruler. They go all the way down. Oh, okay, that person hasn't voted yet. Tick. Go through and vote, young man.
So what if the right person come now?
I could. Well, that's my point. What happens with that? I could go.
Can't vote.
And I'm not I'm not advising this. I'm just saying you could take. I'm not advising this, but you could go.
Are you saying you're not advising? It's like you're advising.
No, I'm not advising. I'm not going to say what I'm going to say now.
No, but I want you to finish your sentence.
My sentence is completed by saying next door neighbor could be me. Yes. And basically take my identity and go and vote. And me finishing late work, I just couldn't manage it. Forgot to go vote. I couldn't vote on that particular day. I'm now unaware that my next door neighbor has voted in his name and then voted in my name.
And voted Conservative.
He can vote for who he wants to.
And you represent the Green Party. I mean, I know how that would feel.
As long as I get my coffee, guys, I don't mind. But the process has to be fit for the society that we work in, and it's not. And nobody's asking that question. We're the first this evening to ask that question. What is going on with regards to reducing voter irregularities?
Yeah, and you're right, David, because I remember you get your little posted card, that comes into, and you reply to the council to say, yeah, you live here, and you could, and then on the day of the election, you don't need your card. You don't need any sort of evidence. You could just show up and say, yep, that's my name.
As long as you know the right polling station, that's the only.
Exactly. You're right. If it's your neighbor, you're all in the same right polling station anyway.
Exactly. Okay. The only thing that the card is valuable for me in this country is being placed on an electoral roll, so you can have credit. That's it. Because after that, you can use that electoral roll at any point in time when an election occurs.
And that is why a lot of black people don't like to go on electoral college register, because they will find them.
No, but you don't have to declare, isn't it? Yeah.
You don't have to declare. No, you don't have to declare.
No. That's why I said don't go on register. But anyway, before we wrap up, still, because we said we wanted to go 30 minutes today. Oh my days, 30 minutes I said, because I was with Mark Golden earlier today from Jamaica for a marathon for 1 hour. So I'm doing like a marathon today. Michelle Clark, I want to go with what Michelle said. The process in America is you'll find most Republicans do walk-in votes and most Democrats mail-in votes. So how do it is the walk-in votes are counted first and then mail-in votes are counted after. So that's what you see the numbers going up for Joe. So that's the whole thing. And Michelle Clark saying further that I live in Florida, and Florida was always a red state. Okay, there she goes. She's in Florida there. My mate in Virginia.
So that's a good point. If I can ask Michelle then. Michelle, is it standard that every 4 years? Because it seems to be a new or novel process to me, based on what I'm reading. So is it that every 4 years it has always been standard that they do the walk-in votes first and then they do the mail-in votes afterwards? Because it seems Trump seems to be surprised by it, and I'm surprised by it because I'm thinking surely they should do it the same way how we do it over here, which is of course you put all the ballot boxes together, whether it's in or walk-in votes or mail-in vote, and we all know what from the outset the numbers. But I need to work out whether Trump doesn't realize this is how the process now usually works.
Yes. Okay, we wait for Michelle to come out. What somebody said here, in Jamaica you have the right to dip your finger in the ink after you vote. Now that is something else, but that doesn't deal with the point about if somebody else dip the finger on your behalf and vote for you already. And when you go,
what do you mean by dip your finger in ink?
In Jamaica, when the people vote, they dip their finger into ink, and then that shows that you can't go back there to vote.
Oh, that's a good point.
But the issue is that if somebody goes and say I'm SYLBOURNE SYDIAL and they vote on my behalf, I can go there and say, hey, I want my finger to dip, and say no, Mr. Sidial, you vote already. I don't know who you are. I'm trying to say
Oh, I see. I see.
that's the issue what David is talking about. And somebody said you need the right news channel. That's another thing in the USA. If you're with actually Republicans are somewhat upset with Fox News because they're saying I don't understand what's wrong with Fox News. Fox News has declared Arizona before anything. You need the link. Jamaica by Paul. Okay, totally. Okay, yeah. So anyway, we don't know what's going to happen with David. He didn't get his
Did
copy.
it disappear?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But for
So
me, Silborn, there's one thing I want to add, and it's to do with Biden. And potentially, yes, he would more likely win this election. But where he sort of stand on the mantra that he actually wants to be the president that unites United States of America. I think if they don't resolve this particular issue about votes and whether there is any discrepancies around that, he'll find it very difficult over the next 4 years to unite America.
yeah, that's interesting. And Michelle has responded by saying that always that way. Trump knows nothing about political process. Trump is in the White House and winging it. You know, you're
Okay, so that settles it then. So I'm not quite sure why.
maybe the finger
Why?
guy
Anyway,
you're fired. As somebody, my cousin posted something saying, "What do you call it when you're trying to delete something and you're trying to delete something off a computer, or that you know that button that comes up saying you're deregistering or something like that."
oh yeah. So it's I saw that picture as well. So they go at the moment it's a gradual deregistering of deleting of
Trump.
of Trump. So they're phasing out of Trump now. So it's going down to 10, 5, 10, 9, 8, a couple more days, and he'll definitely be out of the White House.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's almost like a computer system that you're actually what's the word? Kind of
Erasing.
erasing, yeah,
Erasing,
cleaning the
yeah.
system. So it's
Yeah,
it's a cleansing moment at the moment.
Anyway, I mean, my hope is that either whoever win. Listen, even if Biden win, they just need to just uniting. It's because it is very clear that America has warmed a bit more to Trump. What people are actually saying, it is actually showing that lots of people are like Trump, right? And they're showing that America is split right in the middle, and therefore there's this polarization, and it shows that the winning of Biden or not has shown that America needs a lot of work. I believe that America needs a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, like South Africa. I keep saying that a lot. You need something to go into the core, but I don't think they're going to want to affect their corporation because it's a big
Okay.
business.
Right. Well, I'm not really a political scientist, but it's based on my observation, it seems as if there's two extreme policies or positions now. So you have the I think political scientists, they're going to call him, when you study Trump at school, it's going to be Trumpism. You have like Thatcherism. So it's going to be the study of Trumpism and isolationism and America first, that kind of concept theory. And then you have, I don't know what Biden theory is going to be. In a couple of years' time, we'll find out. But the point is, it's just too extreme. So ideally, to unite a country, you probably want to meet the middle ground,
Yes.
right? And it hasn't happened. So we'll see.
Yeah. And last word, Keima.
No, I think we've touched most of it. We're really good to see. I mean, and somebody mentioned it about how yes, when Biden do win this election, he'll have a very tough time pushing through some of his ideas, his policies going forward, because of course haven't had the huge majority that they need in the Senate. So that'll be very, very interesting going forward. But I mean, Trump may not win, but I think he's done enough to secure some of his policies that he wanted to push through in the long run, particularly his around gun control, and make sure he has his Supreme Court justices there, so anything around right of life and all of that sort of thing. He's got his people in positions already, and so could stop the Democrats from pushing through things that they want to push through. So ultimately, and I mean, people look at this from a political and spiritual point of view. If you want to look at it from a spiritual point of view, he might say to himself, well, he's actually done what he needs to do.
Yep.
Okay. That way.
And David.
Stay at home, save lives, drink coffee.
and we'll get you your coffee as well. And for those on Instagram, all the best and good night, and stay safe. And don't even watch the TV about this. Don't get, somebody the other day posted something saying the whole world is being divided because of these two old men. Sleepy Joe, which Kamala is going to be the running of the president, if anything like that. So no big deal.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating, isn't it? Kamala
I think we'll have
and
oxtail and Yaman banana in the
It could be Obama's third term, is what I heard today.
What's that?
It could be Obama's third term.
Yeah, and also somebody said again, can Trump come back if he loses? And somebody said, well, he's going to come back to Ivanka or his son.
Yes.
And then with it, so it's
Eric and Don.
Actually, I've got a theory.
Okay,
let's say this hot take.
2020, it's going to be
2020.
Pence.
No,
2024. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's going to be Pence and Kamala. Both vying for the presidential position. It's going to be set. So the two VPs are going to run for
and the fly.
And the fly. We're going to have a fly moment as well.
Yes. Okay. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, listen. Have a fantastic night, and have a good night as well. And if you're interested in Jamaican politics, tune in to my earlier show with Mark Golding, who's running to be the president of the People's National Party against Lisa Anna. I might not be able to get Lisa Anna. She said to me after the date because was far into rural places, so she's never had Wi-Fi, so might not have that interview with Lisa Anna before the election. Well, she promised me that she'll come on the show, whether she wins or not. I hope, because if she wins, it's going to be difficult, and if she loses, it may also not necessary. But Lisa has this flair, and I believe that whether she wins or Mark wins, I believe that both of them can be a formidable team in the presidency and running of the People's National Party. And if they become prime minister, they can be same way, one leads and one has the flair, and be a strong team. I think important that everybody works together. I mean, with even America, as I said to people all the while, while I lean towards the Trump factor there, yeah, bam, bam, shoot, bum, bum, I can accept whatever. I can accept a Biden victory, and it's important that Americans really work together at this time. That's my only thing. Come together and work together, because you will not see the stop. You won't see the killing of black men stopping because of a Biden victory. Because Black Lives Matters did not start under Trump; it started under Obama, and that is something which is also profound. And what Trump has done is shown the underbelly of the real America. This is America. Take it to the bank. And what Obama did was showing what a screensaver can do, cover it to make it look as if it's nice. But once you shake up the computer, you realize this is the real world. So therefore, what is exposed now is the underbelly of the nasty side of America, and they've got to come together and work together. And as Biden says, we're not a black America, white America. We are. Sorry, I don't know what he said.
United States of America.
United States of America. That's what he said.
That's what he was saying. He said something one time, some gibberish thing. I don't know what he said.
You must admit, though, probably by the end of this week, we won't have no more, Trump as president. It'll be Biden, president to elect, but all the entertainment will be over.
And the funny thing about it, is it just me, or are you guys finding yourself using some of Trump vocab? Because I find myself using bigly lately.
David, we don't know what that is.
No.
I have no
the
idea.
entertainment factor will be gone. There'll be a death knell in CNN. I don't know. It'll just be like cobwebs just flowing across the screen. I don't know what they're going to feature, because
that's the thing.
hard
Don Lemon will be out of job. Kuma will have no job because there's nothing that they have to do. Fox News,
no more excitement.
Same thing. That's it. Entertainment TV through news will be over as we know it.
Twitter will lose all its favor because
Twitter
they won't have nobody to block.
Yeah. We'll just have to start socializing again and mixing with one another. Oh, we've got COVID. Oh, jeez. What do we do?
Listen, guys, as usual, it is fun. It's fun and it's life. Guys, have a good night and stay blessed. Michelle, you guys over on YouTube, and Facebook as well. Thank you very much, Student Visa, Corey, and all you guys. Peace out.
Peace.
Have a good night. Stay there.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Remember to like and subscribe to the SYLBOURNE Show. Contact SYLBOURNE. There it goes. SYLBOURNE TV, SYLBOURNE TV, SYLBOURNE TV. And you need to subscribe and like, because if you don't, Keima and Keisha is going to find you, and Dr. David will inject you. And you might not like that.
Inject you with Jesus.
Is that right, David?
Oh, coffee.
Oh, you want coffee? David, I've got Blue Mountain coffee downstairs. Lots of Blue
You
Mountain.
got Blue Mountain coffee?
That's the coffee from Jamaica.
From
That,
You know
really
that
doesn't,
one?
that doesn't really help
know
me
that
right
one,
now,
yeah.
Sylbourne, when I'm needing my coffee.
Okay. Oh, you want virtual coffee? Okay, I will stick to virtual coffee then. Okay, by Zoom. Get a Zoom coffee. Okay.
So how do you get Blue Mountain coffee?
We'll talk about that for another time. Okay, can't share trade secrets to the public. See you guys. Bye bye.
All right.
Thank you.